Hi, Nathan. How are you?
Yeah, doing awesome. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to introduce the whole idea of expedition cruising to my clients, and I couldn't think of anyone better than Adventure Canada. We've worked together a lot. I have clients who love you, and people tend to not really know what Adventure Canada does or has ever heard of them. So I'd like you to introduce it to our Canadian clients who are very concerned about booking Canadian companies these days. And I know you are Canadian owned, and
Yeah,
that's very exciting to us. So please let us know about your product and look forward to seeing your presentation.
yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you, Claire, for bringing me in as a special guest. And yeah, we are Canadian owned. We've been Canadian owned operated company since we started in 1987. So also a lot of years behind the wheel, so to speak. But yeah, we're like actually a big majority of our travelers are like 70% are Canadian travelers. Essentially, people who want to see their own backyard and a little bit beyond that backyard. Because we go not just the Canadian Arctic, but a little bit beyond like Greenland, Europe, and you'll see in a second here. So I'll go through these beautiful images and slides. I'll kind of introduce the concept of expedition travel. So for those who don't know what expedition travel is, and also for those who don't know me, that's me there. So my name is Nathan, and yeah, I work with Adventure Canada, and Claire brought me in as a special guest. So again, huge thank you to Claire and her team for putting this together. Um, and I hope you all know the importance of working with travel advisors that they can tailor make your vacations for you, which hopefully will include one of our small ship expeditions. But that's who we are. So we're an expedition company. We take people to the most beautiful remote coastlines in the world. And again, yeah, we're a Canadian company. We've been around for 37 years. So one very good reason why I love traveling and working with Adventure Canada is going to places like this. I don't know if you can guess where this is, but I'll tell you because this is a recording, so no one's actually here in person to answer. But this is an island off the coast of Greenland called Tasusiaq. I felt like I was in a fairy tale place, but it's right here on Earth. It also had like Lord of the Rings kind of feelings, but I didn't have to go all the way to New Zealand. Greenland is our neighbor. When we got off the ship here, like we're the only people here on this island, and you can just it's like a different kind of, if you're used to living in a city, it's a different kind of quiet. Like you just hear the hum of the earth, and it was just beautiful. You can see the mist over the ocean in the distance. We walked through this beautiful valley, like on the island from where the ship landed, led by our specialist guides, and we showed guests from the ship this historic site. You can see on the left of the screen, there's a historic site. There's a medieval era Inuit sod house. So it dates back to around 800 years ago, as explained by the archaeologist who's on our team. So it's just fascinating to see like the human archaeology in these places. And so, yeah, I love the concept of expedition travel because we're taking people to these remote, beautiful places, but in the comfort and safety of a well-appointed modern ship. And when we go to these places, lots of places that we go to, they're protected areas. So we want to, do it in the best way possible. You hear companies saying they want to leave a place the way it was before they got there. Well, we want to make it better. That's what regenerative tourism means. It can be done in many ways, like the education programs via the cultural interactions with people up north. Because our team, and I'll get into our team is very much composed of a lot of specialists that you travel with. So talking about different scientists, artists, Inuit cultural educators. So there's a very big educational component to these expeditions. We're also active members of ACO, which is the Association of Arctic Expedition Cruise Operators. So there's some guidelines that we always follow. Plus, we're traveling through indigenous homelands, like in and out of Canada, through the lens of Inuit and Mi'kmaq and others. So very important for us to actively listen to indigenous-led requests where we go. We actually have a sustainability director named Scott, who he works with a third-party company that audits our own sustainability and carbon footprint, with plans to always be improving. So we've actually made significant improvement because we're launching two new vessels in 2026 that are actually cutting our fuel footprint by about 40% per guest. So that's one of the nice examples in the coming year that we're doing. Plus, we have a carbon offset program for guests where guests can opt into the carbon offsetting for their trip. and it goes to the Great Bear Rainforest in BC. The next phase of that is to actually include the carbon offset in the price of the expedition, but for now it's a voluntary program. So we're actively improving on these different programs to make it as sustainable as possible. And yeah, with our overall trip experience, our goal is to have that positive cultural impact. You visit these communities up north, hear from the actual locals and the indigenous team members and the scientists who are part of the team. And the goal is for you to become an ambassador for the destinations that you visit, come back home with new thoughts and information about the environment, the challenges and the science that's being done in these beautiful places. So, and yeah, here's a snapshot of where we go. So the places that we operate, each color has a different itinerary. You can see the Arctic, Nunatziavut, the coastal Labrador, Newfoundland, and even in Europe, we do Scotland, Faroe Islands, and Iceland. They range from 10 to 17 days in length, these cruises. The longest is actually the Northwest Passage. You can see here, so 17 days. It's the longest one, but also the most, I'd say the most iconic one. If you were to do one in your life, that's the one to do because it has the biggest chances for wildlife. You're seeing a lot of Inuit communities, historic sites like old RCMP outposts and beachy island graves. So that's where we go. And all in all, these places have a lot of history, again, chances for wildlife, and these very seldom visited yet very vibrant communities, and also iconic landscapes for any photographers out there. I'm gonna skip this video just because for sake of time. And we have a lot of beautiful videos that Claire can share with you, but just to kind of go behind the map and show you some of the places we go to. So this is one example in Scotland, Staffa. It's a geological gem. You can see the natural basalt columns here. If you know the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, it's actually just across the sea, so it's the same kind of geology as the Giant's Causeway. And yeah, if you're on this trip or Scotland trip, you'll hear all about this from the historian and the geologist who are part of the team. It's quite fascinating to be here. And even over on the Atlantic Canada side, so a big destination highlight when we do our Newfoundland circumnavigation is Francois, Newfoundland. It's pronounced Francois by the locals. You cannot drive or fly to this place. It's only accessed by sea. Just to illustrate that, even Newfoundland has these hard to reach areas that we can only get to by ship. Only 63 people live here, according to the last census, but it's a bustling fishing village. Whenever we visit Francois, we typically have a Newfoundland kitchen party organized with the locals, so you can enjoy music and food straight out of Newfoundland. It's always very fun to stop here, and it's at the end of a picturesque fjord as well too. So it's beautiful. Another destination highlight: Torngat Mountains National Park in Nunatziavut. Nunatziavut is an Inuit region of Labrador, but this place, it's awe-inspiring landscapes comparable to the Rockies, but you're right next to the ocean. Actually, it looks like Norway in a lot of the places in the Torngat. There's fjords, there's mountains, and again, extremely difficult to access like on your own. It's a very isolated part of Canada, but it's so beautiful, and we take people there. And then Ilulissat over in Greenland. Greenland has been in the news lately. This town, Greenland is worth seeing. This town of Ilulissat, it actually means iceberg in Greenlandic, and there's no question why. There's a horizon of icebergs you can see from this boardwalk that extends out of the town, because there's a glacier up the fjord. You can't actually see the glacier, but there's these monstrous icebergs that get spit off from that glacier. They get bottlenecked into the fjord, and you can hear the ice cracking off in the distance as you walk along this. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site as well. So it's just an epic place to be. But just getting into the how we go to these places, we travel by small ship. So this is the ship we've been using the past 10 years, the Ocean Endeavor. You can see it's 198 max passengers. So it feels like a friendly small town vibe on board. This is the last season that we will be using the Ocean Endeavor. So we bid farewell after October 2025. You can still get on board this summer. There's still some slots, some cabins here and there. But just so you know what it looks like on board, there's lots of deck space, lounges. There's a gym, library, hot tub. The restaurant, we really cater to any dietary requests you may have. We also try to source the food locally as we go. So you'll find, for example, Arctic char might be featured on the menu one night because we're actually buying food from the communities as we go to kind of try that local cuisine. And that goes for all the ships that we're going to be using. So Speaking of that, this is one of the new ships that we're going to be chartering starting in 2026, Ocean Nova. You can see it's 78 passengers, so very classic style expedition ship. And an example of one of the lounges on board. There's a gym, library, and a few other lounges, so lots of space when we are on the ship. And Explorers One is the second vessel that we are going to be starting to use in 2026. It's 144 max passengers, and you can see some beautiful quick glances of the lounges on board here. I'm very excited to step on board this ship next year. Another lounge on the slide there. Jacuzzis as well. You know, if I happen to be on the ship with you, this is where you'll probably find me if I'm on the ship. There's actually two jacuzzis. There's on the mirror side. So imagine you're in the jacuzzi in this landscape of mountains around you. It's quite a spectacular view. But all that to say, the ships are very nice, but expedition cruising is about getting off the ship as much as possible. So for me, when I first traveled with Adventure Canada, it was my first cruise, and I was blown away by the number of times we got off the ship every single day, sometimes twice a day, unless it's a sea day, which typically will just be one day out of the 2 week-ish itinerary. So yeah, we get off the ship a lot. We visit these seldom visited communities, and this is another photo of Francois, Newfoundland, by the way. So wonderfully captured by one of the photographers, Dennis Minty here. And yeah, so yeah, these communities are just something. Whether you're a history buff or a geology nerd or like a wildlife enthusiast, or you may have never like even given a second thought to birds or rocks before, you'll find something interesting to learn in these places. So this is another example of what we do. So there might not be a community per se, but we'll operate an expedition landing. This is where there could be historic sites. Like you might not see this kind of thing from afar, but the archaeologist here, Kaylee Baxter in the photo, is showing these two folks an Inuit foxtrap in Greenland. So explaining the history behind that and how they work. So you never know what we're going to find on these landings. And again, like a lot of the walks and hikes and different sites are going to be managed by our specialists, so you can learn from them and you can kind of do your own thing or talk to the geologist, talk to the ornithologist, learn about birds, rocks. It's funny when I first like traveled on an expedition, like, when I look at a rock, all I knew was that it was a rock. But you know, after hearing the stories from geologists, like, there's actually like stories and history that you can learn just by looking at rocks. So it's quite fascinating. And here we go, another example of an expedition landing. This is a photo that I took myself last year in Labrador. And you can't actually see him, but Tom Padden, he's a Labradorian. He's showing these folks the foundation of a building in Indian Harbor, Labrador, describing the history of the place to guests. He has some family history in this place as well. So just, yeah, very, very iconic sites that we're visiting. When we're on the ship, we can always find time to enjoy views on the deck. And many first-time guests, they have never seen icebergs or glaciers. It's always wonderful to see the eyes light up at the magical sight of these things. You can bring your coffee out on deck. The specialists who travel with us will be out here looking out for wildlife, and you can chat them up. You know, with our team, there are always many activities going on. Like when we're off the ship or on the ship. So in between landings, there may be a morning or afternoon chock full of workshops and presentations that are all optional. It could be different whale species with Deanna Spitzer, who is a marine biologist that works with us. There could be a knot tying workshop that you can see here with James Raffin. He's the kind of guy you want to be stuck in an apocalypse with. He's like an outdoorsy survivalist type guy, but also an accomplished author and an expedition guide. So all kinds of things to keep you engaged off and on the ship. And like I said, we get off a lot. We go into these smaller bays and inlets where bigger ships can't go. That's the benefit of smaller ships. And here's a Zodiac, which we use Zodiacs a lot, you know, to travel amongst the icebergs or to see these landscapes along the coast of Newfoundland, Labrador. And it's kind of like being on an open Jeep safari, but you're out on the water, and our team will always be looking for wildlife. And speaking of wildlife, here's a really good shot taken by Dennis Minty from a Zodiac cruise. So we spotted Mr. White on shore. This is in Labrador off the coast. We can never guarantee wildlife, but I always say it's a lot more likely to see these guys than, you know, if you live in Ontario somewhere or if you live in New Brunswick, you know, there's not really any polar bears that come down there. So there's always like a 0% chance, and most places in southern Canada, but there's a 0 to 100% chance of seeing these, not just polar bears, but whales, muskox, walrus, Arctic fox, and hares, many birds if you're into birding. We can't guarantee it, but we're always on the lookout, and there's very good chances that we'll see these guys, especially in Labrador and the Arctic. Oop, back there. So it's all about choice. You can get as active as you want to get, or as leisurely as you want to get. Even with the zodiacs, if you've never been on a zodiac before, we teach you everything you need to know on day one, how to get in and out. It just takes a couple steps on a staircase, and then our team is there to give you the sailor's grip so your arms are stabilized and you just get in and out, step in, step down. It's very easy once you do it the first time. But on the landings, yeah, again, all about choice. There may be like leisurely walks, like a photography walk or a birding walk, or there may be hikes that we organize. So if you do want to get active, you can get active. We've had people in their 90s who join. So I would say that the mobility requirement is as long as you can go up and down steps because of the landings that we do and because of the use of zodiacs, as long as you can go up and down steps at your own pace, then that's the mobility requirement on expedition cruising. And yeah, so this is a quick recap here of what makes us different as an expedition company. But just yeah, that whole thing is just a glimpse of expedition cruising and how we operate and the points here, just to kind of recap that we're Canadian owned, 37 years of experience, going into the Arctic. And as far as I know, actually, we're the only Canadian operated company that does Arctic small ship expeditions. And yeah, what really makes us stand out is the team on board. So I have one more. This is the last slide here. But one more team, just kind of highlighting the team. I mentioned them kind of throughout the presentation, but the team is what makes the trip very special because you're not just seeing icebergs and seeing landscapes, but you're learning like what is an iceberg and how do they get formed and that kind of thing. And that the team is going to be different on every expedition because we localize the team as much as possible. So when we go into Newfoundland, a lot of the team will be from Newfoundland. They'll be Newfoundlanders. And we take guests around Scotland. A lot of the team will be from Scotland. So you'll have a Scottish geologist, Scottish host, Scottish ornithologist, for example. This is from my own experience. I was on the Scotland trip in 2023, and yeah, the ornithologist, bird expert was Scottish, the geologist was Scottish, the host was Scottish, the historian was so like it's a very localized team of experts so that they know their home and they can show their home the way that they want to show it, which is very important. So yeah, all that to say, people love nature and wildlife, but ultimately people like connecting with other people. That's like a fundamental part of being human. So that's why people keep coming back to Adventure Canada because we're a family-run company. We do that people-centric approach, and you feel like you actually join like a family when you travel with us. So I encourage you to take a small ship voyage and hope you choose to do it with us. You'll be welcomed into the Adventure Canada family. And yeah, so that's the spiel there. So I don't know, Claire, if you have any questions for me, you can.
Yeah, it's definitely. I agree. The feedback I get from my clients who have been on Adventure Canada multiple times is it's like a family.
Yeah.
And that's why they go back. They know the staff. They meet old friends on board, and sometimes they'll do the same itinerary a second time because it's not the same itinerary. It's different each time.
Exactly.
Like you mentioned,
Yeah.
in wildlife, you're not going to see the same
Mhm.
wildlife, and
Yeah.
scenery changes.
Yeah.
I would like to ask you, though. I mean, people will have noticed that everybody's wearing these blue jackets, and
Mm.
you provide those, right?
Yeah, the blue jackets are included in the expedition cost. Yeah, so it's a the expedition jacket. They're the ones that we normally use. They're not like super thick. We go in the summer. We go June to October usually, so it's not always freezing. Like it could be 0 to 20 degrees. So the jackets are actually more windproof, waterproof. That's kind of the idea. So they're good for being on the Zodiacs or if you're on the deck of the ship. It kind of cuts the wind for you. But then I find sometimes like on the landings, it actually gets hot. It could be like 20 degrees. So you can leave your jacket on the shore and put your stuff in your backpack. But yeah, they're included. They're really good jacket. I have one myself. They're really good
They look very
in
nice.
spring and fall, essentially. So yeah.
Yeah. And you also mentioned about different ages, and I know you say you've got
Mhm.
people in the 90s, and I do believe you have a great youth program too, don't you?
Yeah, there's a in the past we've had a free kids program. We're actually changing that in 2026. We're just kind of making it more simple. It's going to be we always had this, but it's like if you're under 30 years old, it's a 30% off
Mhm.
for anyone 30 and under, essentially. So that's going to be like the main kind of simple youth program going forward. Because we do have like we do welcome kids and families. We find like there's usually like an average of maybe one, two families on board. So we're kind of keeping it as a simple like 30% off 30 and under youth program going forward. So yeah,
Sounds very
if
good.
you travel with their grandkids or like yeah, you can bring like the whole multi-generational family and make it a trip.
It is, and I find that people do want their families and their children to have a more educated experience. So making it more affordable is always
Yeah,
a benefit. Yeah.
yeah, it's good bonding for families for sure. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate this presentation, and I mean, I'm a big fan of Adventure Canada, and I know that anybody watching this will be eager to get onto one of your ships and one of your itineraries because they really are special.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Yeah, we just launched the 2026 itinerary. So yeah, any if you're intrigued, you can talk to Claire. She can get you booked and look at
Mhm.
some availability for you. So yeah, it's very
And they
exciting.
sell out quickly, that I know.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Thanks
Cool.
again. Bye,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thanks for having me. Bye, everybody.